Alrighty, so today I want to do something slightly different, and I really want to talk about these two figures right here. I really love the amazing Yamaguchi line, because I think that They're My Hero stuff looks incredible. So today I want to talk about their Endeavor and their Hawks, because I think both of these figures are some of the best that they've made. I suppose first I'll go over Endeavor. Endeavor is a really, really nice figure. There's a lot of really wonderful things to talk about with this guy. Like, I think the nice translucency here provides this awesome like definition of color. I don't know if that's the right wording, but it really helps to bring it to life, in my opinion, especially if you get it in a nice like backlight. But you can kind of see it's on here, as well as the eye plates, a little bit across the collar, even down on the boots. It's all over this figure. Wherever there is flames, you will see translucency. It's this nice shiny blue, which I actually kind of prefer with some superhero costumes. Like, this looks pretty nice. I think that this figure is a perfect representation of Endeavor, honestly. I don't think any other company is going to beat it, especially when it comes to articulation, which I'll go over right now. The head itself is on like a double ball joint from what I remember. I'll go ahead and pop those eyes out by accident, but yeah, it's just on this double ball joint here. I have this neck cover. I wish more companies would do this, because this is such an excellent idea. You can kind of see it once you move the head back up or back down, it moves with it, but the entire time, it's such a good idea. I wish more companies would do that. But there's a ball joint there, and then if I can tell correctly, on the inside there's a joint like this, so a ball joint connected to a hinge on a circular hinge, spherical hinge, but it allows you to get some good tilt out of it, especially, and a little bit of back and forth. But you can get this guy looking up, like straight up. Besides the neck and the head, yeah, you can get some really good tilt out of this. That is one issue I will say. These eyes come out pretty damn easily. I love this feature on a lot of amazing Yamaguchi, but this and my Deku, as well as my All Might even, have a really hard time holding in their eyes. The best one that does it is Hawks, and even that I have issues with, if I'm honest. Besides the head, there's this at the shoulders, which helps to give you just slightly more range, as best as I can tell, with the arms, like the butterfly joints, to get it forward. I wouldn't stress that too much. I'm a little worried about that, but it goes forward, back. At the shoulder, it's this weird, it's always a weird joint with Rebel Tech and Amazing Yamaguchi, but it has like a swivel at the base, so it can go forward and back, as well as a ball joint connected to the shoulder. There is a swivel at the bicep, a weird double hinge, a really strange double hinge. So what they do is they have a hinge here and then a ball joint at the base. But what you can do is you can use that ball joint as a hinge, so it gets you really good articulation. It does give you this ugly as sin gap, but at the same time, if you're looking at it from angles like this, you're not gonna see it. Even if you're looking at it from an angle like that, it looks weird, yes, granted, but you don't have this massive hole unless you're looking at it from the very back of the arm. But that ball joint also gets you a little bit of articulation here if you really want to swivel that part of the arm as well. Say you want to have fire shooting out the side here, which I'll get to that in a minute. But there's that. This, I'll actually show you as best I can. This is the best way that they've done their arms, in my opinion. So it's basically a big version of one of their smaller hinges, which I'll also talk about that here in a bit. It's 2 pegs and a hinge. It just swivels like that. It allows you to swivel the fist as well at the top. So you can get swivel here and then swivel at the top, which is great. The crunch. So the top crunch gets you some pretty nice tilt and some pretty nice range. That's all you get forward out of it at the very top. And this is all you really get back. You can start to see some gapping. But once you double that with the bottom hinge, the bottom ball joint, you can get this guy into some ridiculous poses. There is, like I said, a ball joint at the base that gives you even more tilt, like insane amounts of tilt. I don't quite understand this here. This is one of my big issues with this figure, especially this at the front. The belt is very disjointed because of these. I think if you warm these up, you could squish these back into place. But these are on dumbbell joints, so they move up and down like that and swivel all around and get out of your way as much as you need them to. I would say just leave him like this, but at the same time, that leaves him looking disproportionate, especially with the fact that the belt is just gone. So you need them to be over here to look better. It's a weird choice that is such a strange decision to make, and I will never understand it. But you get a ball joint at the top of the legs, you get an angled swivel here, and there are some cases where I don't like this, but there are also some cases where I really enjoy it. So it's very situational, I'll say that much. But it can get you some really nice range. It can get you some splits. And the knee is single jointed, right? But the way that they've cut it out, you get double jointed range. It is insane with the range on this thing. There's also a hinge at the boot. I enjoy that a lot, honestly. There is another hinge, like a ball hinge, like in the shoulders at the very bottom of the feet. So that gives you all the range that you'd need out of the foot. It's a little limited on the tilt. It's not going to get you full 90 because of this big piece here, but it'll still get you a good amount of tilt. It'll get you a good amount back if you finagle it right. Get you like that down. It'll get you that much up, and then a nice toe bend. It doesn't go all the way, but it doesn't need to go all the way. And the way that they've sculpted it means that the toe stands flat with only a little crevice there. That is it for the articulation on this guy. When it comes to faces and hands, let me pull this down real quick. You get 3 other heads to choose from. So you have your gritted teeth expression, you have your yelling expression, and you have your bloodied expression, as well as your normal stern one, as I've had already on there. And all of these heads have interchangeable eyes, which when I saw the promo photos, I would always see this one with the bloodied eye, but you can still do it with stuff like this. That's not the best combination, sure, but I still like that I have that option too. I really enjoy the fact that I have the option to do that. You get a bunch of different hands, so you have the fists that have been on him the whole time, and then you have your open hands like this. These are really, really nice relaxed hands. They're really big, chunky, relaxed hands. You're not going to get wrist hinges on each set, but they give you an extra pair, so I just put them on a pair that I liked. You get this sculpted phone holding hand and a little like text message thing for when he's texting Shoto. You get some grabby hands, and then you also have these painted fists, which are very, very nicely done with a very beautiful gradient of oranges and yellows. And on top of all that, you get a ton of pegs. You get an extra set of pegs like this and this, by the way. These are for the big flames on the back, and these are for the smaller all clear flames. And these are the ones that are supposed to go on the back. These have the same articulation as, say, the shoulder or the hands, but they plug onto the back. There's holes here. There's a hole here, here, there on the back, there on the back, and then there's one there for the stand, and one right there, as well as another one right here at the very top, which I still don't understand what it's for, really. You can plug that. You can't really plug that one in, actually, but you're supposed to get each flame set in there like that, so that you have this kind of look for him. So now he's all flaming and angry. But the really, really nice thing about these flames here is you also have extra holes in them. It looks a little funky, but at the same time, you can fill them in. And I like having that option, if I'm honest with you, because then you can have massive raging flames behind him. It is super nice to have that option there. Then there's these parts here, as well as these. So your short flames and your long flames, as I'm going to call them. Each of them clamps together by little pegs like this, as well as these ones clipping together like this. Now the reason you have these is because all of these little holes here, as well as even on each of your fist hands have little holes in them. You can kind of see that there. And they will accept those. The fist hands is actually not the best example. It's a little finicky. I will say it gets pretty tight and a little scary, but if you're careful with it, then you're good. I'm very overly cautious with my figures, and I don't want to break stuff like this, especially. But yeah, you can kind of get it set in there like that, or I'll split this one apart to show it easier. Say I said this hole back here, you just push it right in there. It goes right in, and you have these really, really nice looking burst effects. Those are so beautifully done. I think these are some of the best effects when it comes to like a fire character like this that I have seen. And this really gives it that oomph to each like punch. Say you want them throwing a punch out there. Ooh, I have to do it this way. Okay. You can kind of double them up, but you do that one there, as well as this one here. Do that like cupped effect, and now you've got this insane looking punch effect. Something like this. Oh yeah, that's much better. That's another thing. That's loose, and I don't know how to fix that. That is not great. But that's not great, but you can get these beautiful, beautiful punch effects off of him. If I had to give this figure an overall rating, I would say it's a solid 7.5. There are quality control issues like this, as well as that little fragility factor. That scares me, and some people might not like that. So if I'm giving it an objective rating, I'm saying 7.5. If I'm giving it a personal rating, I'm giving it an 8.5. I love this thing. It feels so solid. It feels so chunky. It is a really nice figure. I would suggest it to any fan of My Hero Academia. If you really, really like MHA or you really like Endeavor, absolutely pick this figure up. It is the best representation of this character that you are going to get. So let's talk Hawks. I'm going to say this right out of the gate. This is single-handedly my favorite figure from Amazing Yamaguchi. It is the best. It's probably one of the best figures I've handled in a long, long time. It is incredibly fun to pose around. It is incredibly well sculpted and well done. The whole thing is given this nice matte finish to help it look more realistic instead of that shiny like superhero costume. There are so many options with this figure as well. There's 14 hand options from what I can remember, and 10 different eye sets. It is spectacular. There are some things that I have issues with, but it is still the best one that I own. So when it comes to aesthetic things, like I said, there's this nice matte finish on the entire figure, honestly, except for the wings. The wings are this glossy plastic. You know, there's some rubbery parts. This figure, especially in the crotch piece here, feels very rubbery, but this jacket's hard plastic. There's a couple parts that have a little bit of paint rub, especially like in the body on mine. You can see it right there-ish. See a black spot right there. Overall, the figure I think looks really good. So let's talk articulation. So for the head, you have the same kind of situation from what I can tell. You can see a double ball joint here, like a barbell joint. And that is all it is. It is a long barbell and this weird shaped neck, but you're not going to see the weird shaping because of the head and the face and the hair. But it can get so far up there. There's the dumbbell joint at the neck, and it gets you some really nice tilts out of that alone. But there's a really weird joint at the body, and I can kind of see it here. It's hinged similarly, again, to Endeavor's neck. It's a spherical hinge with a ball peg at the base of the neck. It's a little stiff. This one is very strange. When you move the head, it moves part of the chest piece. You can kind of see it. Yeah, you can see it right there. It's moving it. I don't know why, it just does that. But you're going to get most of your articulation from the head that you're going to need out of that double ball, the barbell joint, as well as a little bit out of that baseball joint. That's the head. I think it works just fine. The arms is where I have issue. I understand that whatever they did, they had to do for the sake of sculpt, but this joint here really seems to limit it. Really feels like it's limiting the articulation. What you have is the same situation, a spherical hinge connected to a ball joint, but this piece here is rubbing up against the rest of the plastic and creating a situation where it can't move up this further than this, because it is shaped like this to reach the shoulder. So it's hitting up against that, and now it feels difficult to twist the arm. It's not the best design, though you can still work with it, and you can finagle it to get almost 180 or 360 rather, but it's really not the best design out of all the figures. That is probably the biggest issue that I have with this figure. The arms, I saw a lot of people when this figure first came out said that he can only reach 90, or he can reach less than 90, and then get it to about there, if I remember correctly, and then say, oh, it's reaching less than 90. What a lot of people have missed is the same thing that Endeavor had. There is another ball joint in there. That's why that cut is there, so that you can get that ball joint propped up and then bring it all the way to about there. It's not as good as Endeavor, I will say that much. It is limited by that fluffy coat, but it is still better than people were saying. You can get the hand to the head, you can get anything you need out of it, really. Besides that, there is the same type of joint as Endeavor had. I just have these specialized hands. These specialized hands are meant to go, I dropped it. They're meant to go in the pocket. You can kind of see a little square peg, fit the square, or square hole, you fit the square peg in the square hole, and it works just like that, and then you finagle it so that the arm is going into there, like that. Here's a hand with the original joint. As you can see, it's a little spherical hinge with two pegs on it. There is the same type of, I forgot to mention this, there's the same type of weird, like, shoulder shifting motion that Endeavor had, but this one has somewhat more of a purpose. It also gets the jacket out of the way. It gets the jacket back and forth, so you can have, you can have this downed look or this kind of flared up design. And that also helps you get past this triangular point. If you're down here, then you're going to get caught beneath it. But if you're up here with it, it's not an issue at all. Let's go ahead and cover the torso. The top hinge, or the top ball joint, can actually get a ton of crunch in there. A lot more than Endeavor had. It can't get a lot of back though. You can get some side to side, combine the two, and you have this. That is the biggest issue of this. Though at the same time, you're looking at it from here, not from straight back. The only time you're really going to notice it is about there. Maybe if you're trying to get them to look back, you'll have that issue. Some really nice range on this kick. I don't think I showed that with Endeavor, but really nice range on this kick. The same kind of weird swiveling thighs. I still like this design, if I'm honest with you. It's just a little strange. Again, single jointed knees that get incredible range, as well as the same kind of legs with the spherical hinge and the ball peg on the inside. Gets you some really good tilt here. Incredible tilt out of this figure. Some toe up. It's not fully toe up, but the way it's also sculpted on this one is kind of rounded, so it really helps there. Some foot up, you're gonna get about that, as well as foot down is excellent actually. Let's cover the wings as well. This is a lot of these double pegs on the spherical hinge. That is what this is based off of. So you can get open and close motions, as well as something I like to do. You twist both pieces and you can get some like flapping motions. These wings are made with not the best plastic. It's very cheap feeling and it can feel like you're gonna snap part of it off, especially here. So be very careful about that. These pieces of the wings are on a ball joint to make them freely move around, and I do appreciate that a lot. If you want to bring them to the front even, you could. If you don't want any real wings on this figure, there is an option for you. Now let's talk about accessories, because there's a lot in one area and not a lot in others. You get these little baby wings, so that when he sent all his feathers out, you can have the little tiny ones. That's a really nice accessory. And if you want, you can have the tiny wings while also having one of his massive feather swords. There are holes on this section of the wing for you to plug these included feather pieces into. And that makes it look like he's sending out his feathers. So with most Amazing Yamaguchis, you get a bunch of different eye parts. And from what I can tell, 1 through 4 is for this angry face here, while 5 through 10 are for the 2 happier expressions. So keep that in mind. You also have 2 different faceplate options. You have your glasses option and your no glasses option. If you're using this hairpiece and you want to hold the glasses, you have these little glasses right here. And where's the yep. This hand right here is specifically meant to latch onto the glasses, so you can hold them like this. Let's get into the hands finally. So as you've seen, there's these 2 hands here for the pockets. There is a pointing finger that I put on there. There's a pair of these, a pair of them. Then there's your holding hands for the feathers. There is also 2 of those, as you can see right here. See that whole holding hand? You have 2 of these widespread options. These little outreaching hands, I really like those. You have a pair of normal fists. Those are really nice as well. Really nicely sculpted. A holding hand for a coffee can. This one's really nice. A pair of thumbs up hands. Big old thumbs up. And a pair of waving hands like this, so that you can wave to people. And the last couple accessories that I can think of use these. And they're these big sheets that show a bunch of feathers on them for when he's deploying his feathers and you stand him behind him. Now, something that I forgot to mention with the Endeavor, every single Amazing Yamaguchi comes with an Amazing Yamaguchi stand. Now this one also has this piece here. It's a specialized piece so that it can attach onto the back of him there. They always peg into the back. And you can kind of have him swooping like this, kind of thing. It's supposed to reach past the feathers and everything. But every single Amazing Yamaguchi includes one of these stands, as well as a clamp like this. This clamp is useless. It is garbage. Throw it away. Every single Amazing Yamaguchi that I own has a hole in the back for you to peg it onto. So just do that. This one's a little bit tighter, so be careful about that. I've had one of my stand arms get stressed. But yeah, this works just fine. Oh yeah, let me give let me give Hawks a rating before I close out. Hawks is an easy personal 9 out of 10. It's almost perfect. Those arms get me, but this thing is so good. And those wings get me. This figure is so good though. It is insanely well done. Objectively, I might give it an 8.5 because those shoulders and those wings can be a real downgrade, as well as that paint chipping isn't the best, but I love this thing so much that I can't help but give it a 9. It is wonderful. You might think that it's better than I do. I don't know. I would easily suggest this figure even if you don't like My Hero Academia. It is fantastic. But that is it for both of these guys. I'm going to say right now, these are two of the strongest releases that Kyoto and Amazing Yamaguchi has. If you want a Rebel Tech figure, easily suggest one of these two. These are great figures. That's all I have to say. So I'm going to post some poses as best I can, and I will be back with a review soon enough of Deku and All Might. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.